Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching this. I wanted to tell you this is a little time sensitive.
Greetings again, dear ones. For the last few channels, we have been talking to you about something that is consciousness but physics, and it has to do with the multidimensionality of you, your cellular structure, your consciousness, and how you're moving paradigms from one reality to another. And so we want to enhance that yet today. Again, the channel is not about physics, it's about consciousness, it's about you, it's about what's coming. Now, yet again, I want to ask you to readjust your reality in the room. This is a message from Spirit. It's a benevolent message, a beautiful one, to the creative source that loves you. The creative source has a higher consciousness, you might say, than anything that you can even fathom. There is no room for darkness. Love is the king of emotions for you. It is also the benevolence of God. There is no other energy that surpasses it. It is prevalent throughout physics, throughout the universe. There'll come a day when science will expect benevolent return from experiments. That intuition will show them something to do, and there'll be no question of what the experiment's results will be. They'll feel the benevolence before they even experiment. That the scientific method will be something that qualifies something that they already know, not that they suspect. It's all part of what's coming. We gave you channels in the past, especially the last 3, that were interrupted by a translator. And so we wish to repeat some of it so that there is no interruption and in a language and word frame that is more consistent without translation. I want to talk about one of your famous scientists. Once again, it's Einstein. Einstein actually quarreled with quantum physicists in later years. Einstein did not believe in potentials. Einstein was more empirical. And yet, I am telling you that this man was the first quantum physicist. And we do this by saying what he did was to show you that something you thought was absolutely steady and empirical and would not be changeable was changeable. So in physics, especially that which you walk around in and call reality, there are certain things that behave certain ways and they're not changeable. They can't be. It wouldn't be your reality if they changed. And Einstein came along and showed you one of the most stable things that you believe planetarily was changeable. When Einstein showed his theory of relativity, it was about time. It was about something so empirical, so steady for you, that you can measure time by the nanosecond. You've worked out ways of cutting time so that it is so precise, you know by the absolute piece of it what time it is. Because it never changes. But it did. Einstein presented something that I'm going to turn right around and show you is yours. He postulated that if a man got in a spaceship and went the speed of light, and he stayed out for perhaps a year, going the speed of light and returned to the planet, he would be a year older and the planet would have aged more than he did. So by going very fast, he slowed down his time relative to where he came from. Now, he didn't know that, and neither did Earth, until they met together, and then it was obvious. This rewrote the whole idea that something you thought was never going to change was variable. Now, I want you to just stop right there. That's quantum physics. Because it's going to rewrite what you think cannot be changed. Let's get back to the speed relationship to time. In 3 dimensions, in the thinking process that you have, even in 4 dimensions, you linearize everything. It has to be that way for you. It has to make sense for a human being. So speed to you is defined as the amount of duration between points. If you're driving a fast car, the duration will be shorter from A to B. An airplane, shorter from A to B. You go faster, the duration is shorter. And every time you mention speed, it's in a straight line. Now let me give you some what I call sideways logic. Could you go as fast in a circle? The answer is yes. Ignore that which you think is centrifugal force, which is not defined right. If you were to go in a circle instead of a straight line, could you still go fast? Of course. So now let's go very fast in a circle instead of a straight line. You have that picture in your mind. Now let's start to reduce the circle. And reduce and reduce and reduce and reduce and reduce until the circle is your cellular structure. You've heard the term vibrating at a higher level. A vibration to you is an oscillation, a back and forth motion. It's not, it's a circle. You are vibrating in a circle, and in this energy becoming multidimensional, your cellular structure is speeding up. Are you starting to get a picture? What would happen if your cellular structure started to speed up a lot more than someone else's? Using the theory of relativity in its purest form, ignoring some of the speed limits that Einstein has put there, can you see it would be possible for your clock to slow down and everyone around you is going faster? This results in a much longer lifespan, dear one. I just gave you the quantum reason why a high vibrating soul will live longer. It's because you change time with your consciousness. Now, I've done this so that you can relate to what you already know. So it's not some high idea in metaphysics that has no grounding to it. Einstein showed it to you. But you're doing it at a cellular level. I'm going to give you a piece of information that I've never revealed before, that is going to be on the planet and known shortly. Inventors are starting to move into a multi-dimensional reality. Even if they don't know it, they're starting to use some principles that are multi-dimensional. Now let me give you a paradigm that you are used to. And that is this: everything that works, that is mechanical, has to have a power supply. It really boils down to fire. There has to be fire. Heat is often needed, whether it's in steam or another way, in order to propel something. Fire equals light. Fire equals computing. Fire equals this, that. It all boils down to the elements of the planet fueling something you have created. Now, you'll get really good at efficient use of fire. That is a metaphor. But it still has to have a power supply. So the paradigm that I'm giving you is that in 3D, in order to have something that would appear to be energy, you have to have that which starts it somehow, a little or a lot. That is the paradigm of 3 dimensions. It has to come from something that is in front of you in order to develop it into something else. And you're getting, as I say, very good. What about quantum energy? Quantum energy is not linear. Now, if I told you it didn't need a power supply, I would be wrong. But let me tell you this, it does not need a 3-dimensional power supply. Here is an axiom that the quantum physicists and inventors will know. In order to have quantum energy, to work with it, to develop it, to use it, there has to be a quantum source. Period. You cannot create quantum energy or build anything using it without a source that is similar of quantumness. Let me define the word quantum. As we use it today, it means multidimensional. It is not the standard definition of quantum as physics would have. We are using it differently. It means multidimensional. Multidimensional energy of any form that is developed on this planet must have a multidimensional source. They're even going to call it a push-pull energy. Because when they realize the dynamics of multidimensionality, it's going to work in a push-pull way. In linearity, one power supply simply pushes in one direction to fuel something that then does something. There's no push-pull. The closest push-pull energy you have was developed through a quantum mind called alternating current. And that is push-pull. If there's an engineer in the room, you'll chuckle because you know I'm right. You look at the phase relationships of alternating current, and it's push-pull. Tesla knew about this, and it wasn't time. A quantum energy needs a quantum source. Now, before we go to the next step, where would you get a quantum energy? Do you know there are quantum biologists? If there are quantum biologists, that tells you something about your biology. What if it were quantum? There are quantum sources all over the planet. Some of the biggest, the absolute largest energies on this planet sit there and look at you and work 24/7, and they're quantum. Gravity is quantum. Magnetics is quantum. Light is quantum. The sources of quantum energy and development are with those 3. Plus 1, you. If you have a quantum biology, that means that you can do quantum things. The source is inside your DNA. Now, this is what has created the ability for you to vibrate faster with consciousness. Do you know that if you vibrate fast enough, and your consciousness is high enough, and you can integrate with the creative source, what happens? Your DNA starts to work at a very efficient level. You go past 44, 55, you get into 80s and 90s. And this now will explain something very controversial. The masters of this planet had vibrating DNA in the 90s, and they controlled physics. They could change one thing into another. They could work with life force. They could make massless objects. And they can do it because they are one with that which is around them, with a fast, high-vibrating DNA. The quantum engine is already there inside you, and this explains why this new energy and the magnetic field is able to allow you to go further than you've ever gone before. A quantum engine, which is your biology, will create quantum thought, higher thinking inventions, because you think out of 3D. Many of you will outlive your families. There'll come a time when humanity looks at the few who are outliving the many. And you will again face the objection that you're using magic, not understanding that what you're using is the love of God. It's always been there. This is just one of many things that we'd love to share more with you. But if I wanted to summarize this portion of the message, it would be this. Everything that you wish to accomplish personally within you can be done using a quantum engine that is already in place and waiting to be started. The consciousness of thought, the emotions of love, benevolence, and compassion are catalysts for the quantum engine. Would you like me to say that again? The attributes of love, compassion, and benevolence are the catalysts for the quantum engine. That's what starts it. Fear will stop it. It creates a higher vibrating human being. Just like Einstein says, you surpass some of the attributes of physics as you know them when you start to vibrate higher. Did you know that disease is a lower vibration? Did you know that if your cellular structure vibrates higher, a lower vibrating disease cannot remain? Am I getting through? It's physics. It's the physics of consciousness. Interesting, isn't it, that of all the inventions that you're going to have in these next decades, of the quantum things that are going to occur, the one that you will use first is within you. Because you have to kickstart that one in order to have the others. Because these are going to come out of high consciousness thinking. And that is going to create engrams and patterns of thought that are going to connect to a universal source that gives you perfect physics, not limited physics as you live in. The inventions are in you, waiting to be connected to the source that created them. I want to give you something to think about. I want to paint a picture of a quantum source that is all over this planet. Einstein showed you you could change time. It was basic. It's been proven. I'm going to tell you something. In real physics, not limited physics, not 3D physics, in real physics, are you ready? Everything can be changed. It's a complete, beautiful, variable system that you can change. When you learn about what it is and how to use it, and you develop the inventions and the machinery, if we can use that word, you will also have some other revelations. Machinery could be partly biological. I'm going to leave that alone. But here's what I want to tell you. What do physicists tell you about matter? They tell you it's mostly space. It's empty. I have two examples I want to give you that are outside of the box of your limited physics. Here you have a rock, and the rock weighs a certain amount. It always weighs that. Of course it does. You can't change that. The rock is the rock. What if I told you you could change that? If you go inside a rock at the atomic level, it's mostly space. That means there's plenty of room to change the density that makes the rock weigh what it does. Dear ones, why does gold and lead for a certain size weigh more than basalt or some other light rock or a sponge? And the answer is density. So if you can molecularly, atomically change the density of the rock, you can change what it weighs. Now, if the rock is mostly space, you've got plenty of room. If you knew how to do it. By the way, Tesla did. Tesla is back, by the way. This will occur to humanity. When quantum energies are used, you can change quantum rules. If you change the density of the rock, you could make it massless. You could make it float. That's all you have to do. Dear ones, it's simply variable physics that in your box you don't think you can change. You didn't think you could change time either, did you? And that was in the 40s. It's going to happen. Imagine for a moment if you could change the weight of things. And you could do it easily through a quantum source, not a big power supply, forget that. Now, what source might you use to change the density of matter? Turn the page. You're sitting there and you have something I want you to do figuratively in this example. I want you to pretend for a moment that you're in front of a very powerful magnet. It's actually not a magnet, it's a pair, plus and minus. It's one of those special magnets that it's so difficult to pry it apart. Because the plus and the minus are aligned, so they're sticking together. It's not very big either. In fact, it's not even 2 inches. It's small. There's no power supply. It's simply two magnets that are known to be extremely strong. They're dense. They have properties of magnetism highest on the planet ever discovered, and they're sticking together. They're small. Your job is to pull them apart. So you begin. You grasp them and you stop for a moment, realizing they're not going to come apart easily. So you take a stance of a weightlifter. You bend down. You get your muscles prepared. You grab each part and you start to pull. And it's tough. It's not coming apart. They're stuck together through a magnetism that is so strong. You know, if you slide them slightly to one way or another, they might come apart. You have to be careful. If they come apart and you get your finger in between, you'll squash it. And you start to sweat. Now you're extending energy. You're expending energy. You're extending your consciousness to everything you can to pull these parts from one another. Now I want you to freeze frame that for a moment. I want you to get that picture firmly in your mind. You're doing everything you can. You're breathing hard. You're huffing and puffing. You're sweating. The magnet will eventually come apart with the force that you're using as a human being. But I want you to freeze frame it. Because this, my friend, is the difference between 3D energy and quantum. The human being is a machine that's 3D in this particular example, trying everything it can through force to pull something apart. If you do it long enough, you'll get tired. If you do it long enough, you're going to need fuel. You're going to need to eat something in order to sustain your life, so you can use your muscles, so you can continue to pull apart this magnet. If it were life and death, that you had to pull it apart to survive, you'd also add anxiety. Then you'd have to eat more. Now let's turn over and look at what the magnet is doing. Nothing. What kind of force is 24/7? The magnet has incredible power. So much so you're sweating to try to pull it apart. And it's doing nothing. It's just sitting there. Long after you're tired, it's still powerful. Dear ones, long after you're dead, it's still there. It's still powerful. Never ending. It doesn't need to be fed. It's forever. How can you explain that? What kind of a power is there? There's no power supply. There's no electricity. Only magnetism. I just gave you the key for massless objects. It's going to come from a quantum source. The quantum source will be magnetism. Magnets get their power from a quantum source that does not appear to be on the planet. It's everywhere. It's part of the ethers of the heliosphere of the sun. It is part of the ever-present ethos of the space between atomic structure. Magnetism and the power of it comes from a source that you cannot explain because it's not linear. How many physicists have looked at the power of magnets and scratched their head? You know how to use them, you have no idea where the source is coming from. And you huff and you puff, and you use all of that 3D energy that has to be fueled in order to pull them apart or push them, and they're forever. And they don't care, and they don't get tired. Welcome to the future. There is so much energy available without a 3D power supply. And this will be the new frontier. When you can do these kinds of things and not weaponize them, that's high consciousness. It's coming. It's enough for today to give you examples of what high consciousness can do, where you're headed for, because there is a connection to the creative source which is going to open up and give you the benevolence that you deserve. These things will not be given completely while the earth is in its current state of unbalance. These things will clear, and the unbalance will become less, And you will feel it, and you will know it, and there'll come a day when there's very, very little killing on this planet, and much more understanding on this planet. And when you can see that, it will simply open the frontiers of physics. And like the magnet that is forever, it will create for you food and water and power and even youthing. That's enough. You're in the forerunners of all of it, all of it. Planet after planet has been through this. It's coming. And you will say, Kryon, is it going to be in my lifetime? And I'm going to tell you, of course. Of course. You may look a little different, but you'll be alive. You're going to be here to see it, all of it. That's because you're an old soul. You paid the price to get here, with lifetime after lifetime of working with light, dear ones. Now it's time to light gives it back. I'm silly.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching this. I wanted to tell you this is a little time sensitive.
Greetings, dear ones. I'm Kryon of Magnetic Service. I'm aware of where I am. Those who are in the room. Dear ones, I'd like to bring you a message that is similar, but different from others that I've given before, about some basic truths and perhaps even some deceptions of the old enemy. All of you come from this planet, from the civilization of the time. Every single one of you has experienced what your parents have told you, what others have told you, and you've received instructions. But more than that, you've received concepts and sometimes habits. I want to tell you again that everything I speak of now is moving from the darkness to the light, to resetting and reframing that which is you. Some of the things that I talk about are knee-jerk reactions that are intuitive to what you do because you've always done it. And I'm going to tell you, perhaps, it's a pitfall. And the solution to getting around it, not that difficult, if you wish. I gave you a channel not too long ago about some deceptions, of some things that you learned a certain way and now they're different. I'll continue. But these are more personal. These are not necessarily for the planet, they are for you. They're for the ones listening now, for the ones in the room. And all of these are given with total compassion and honor for the struggle it takes going from one paradigm to another. I want to start with the honoring of the human being and all that you are. All of you listening now, this is an empowering message. They all are. I want to start with number one. What is your thought and your teaching on things which would seem to be competitive? Part of what you think is competitive, you call life. The right job, the right place, how you're seen, what happens if you don't do the right thing. This comes from the energy of teaching right from those you love. And now I'm going to give you a postulate, dear ones, whereas you might have seen a system of winning and losing, the new paradigm for your life is not that at all. Perhaps you've taught that for every winner, there has to be a loser. And that would then emulate the systems of your politics. Winner takes all. Every time. And you filter it down to your life, and it would seem the same. Winner takes all. You either win it or you lose it. Now I want you to start reframing that, dear ones. And I want you to say this, and I want you to mean this. When you're in trouble, perhaps, and you think in these terms, I'll tell you something that no one ever said to you. There is enough for everyone. There is enough for everyone. There is enough love. There is enough abundance. There is enough food. In this civilization where you are, with your abilities to manifest, for the wisdom that you have as an old soul, for what you've gone through, I speak to old souls now, there is enough for everyone. There is an old adage that says if one accelerates, the other one won't. It's something about the fact that there's somehow limited abundance or limited success or limited money. That is an old paradigm. It is a deception of an old energy. For you and your lives, it's not win and lose. It's win and win. This may be difficult for you to understand. I'm asking you to change the paradigm of your thought. In everyday life, when you see things, there's no winner and loser. There's enough for everyone. Sometimes there would be those who would tell you there's not enough for everyone, and that there would have to be some who would suffer if others had what they needed. This is an old paradigm. It has to do with linear things. It is not esoteric. It has nothing to do with the love of God, your experience. It has nothing to do with that which you are trying to do, which is accelerate into higher consciousness. All of you have that ability. There'll be no losers in this. There won't be some who accelerate and then rob energy so others can't. This is an old paradigm. That's number one. The reason we gave that is there are some here listening who still believe it and had to hear it. And the aha will be there. Really? Yes. When my partner started, he came into this bookstore. This was before Kryon. He came into this bookstore. And he looked around and he saw the plethora of books. All of the titles, all of the teachers, all of the channelers. And when we started to channel with him, one of the things that he said over and over is that there's already channeling. He says, there's no room for another book on their shelves. I've been there. Why should I then contribute to something that already is there, already exists? Why me? They have enough. And then he said the magic words that plague him to this day. He says, they're better than I am. Dear ones, this had to be reframed in his life. That there's enough for everyone. There's enough high consciousness. There's enough enlightenment. All of these things. You limit yourselves because you look around and you say, there isn't this, there isn't that, or therefore, all the things that are linear, all the things that you've been taught. Including, I'm too old. This will never happen for me. Someone had to hear that. That's old thinking. If you start to reframe this and know that there's enough for everyone, your body starts to understand it, cognize it, your consciousness will broadcast it, and your life starts to change. Let me give you the premise of Kryon, which is number 2. You're never alone. When my partner sat in the chair for the first time, it was frightening to him. Because what he felt was not anything that had words connected to it. He didn't hear anything. It It was concepts that he felt immediately sitting in the chair after he had asked Spirit, if you're there, show me. Oh, that was so dangerous. It was dangerous because we showed him and his life changed. It was dangerous because he wasn't ready for the paradigm shift that took place. But what he felt made him weep. He realized that when he sat in the chair without saying anything, without realizing anything, he felt dozens around him who loved him, holding his hands. He could feel the light that was there. He didn't know what to do with it. And so he cried. It was overwhelming. It wasn't supposed to be there. For the first time, he realized that he was never alone, had never been alone in his life. And now he walks the planet knowing this, counts on it. It's given him peace. And so I say, what about you? What have you been told is there outside of you? I want you to drop all of that just for a moment and think again of what is there. The complexities of a multidimensional experience are exhaustive. It's too much to understand, to explain. And so we say the simplicity, you're never alone. And truly what we mean by that is that you can't be. You're designed to be with a group. Don't get linear. Don't name the group. Oh, how many? Where are they from? What's their name? The group is part of your soul. It has to be. If you are multidimensional, you are not part of just one thing. You're part of many things. The soul you think is one is many. It has to be. That is the attribute of being multidimensional. It's many yous, if that helps. In many dimensions, if that helps. The group may be you with you, but it's a group. Somehow it's together as one, and many ways it is apart as helpers. What if I told you that your guides were you? Would that diminish them too? You're never alone. I want you to know that. Because many of you feel you are. When you're done with this meeting or this recording, and you go to a place in your house, perhaps, and you want to feel alone, you can't. Go ahead, try it. We'll be there to disturb you. You cannot be alone. You can go into the woe is me. You can do all of the things. You can cry that nobody loves you. And the entourage will just stand around you until you come out of it. We're all there. We have gone through everything you've gone through, dear ones. Not just you with you, not the multidimensional parts of your soul, but the connection you have to Spirit, to God, to all the other souls. Can you imagine how many people are in that room alone with you? I invite you right now to cognize this, to feel it, to understand it. So the next time you might go into that depressive state, wondering why you are who you are, why don't you listen for the answer? When the group uplifts you and wants to light a match, like they do in some concerts, where through the audience you will see all the matches raised in song. I want you to see that, and you're standing in the middle of the arena, and everyone is singing your name. That is reality. You are on this world on purpose, doing an amazing job, and it's difficult. And the support group knows it. And if you allow it, we'll light that match in an arena and sing your name. If for no other reason, to make you know and understand You're here on purpose, and you're loved and known by name. You're never alone. Number 3 is a habit. The world is always getting worse. It never gets better. Did you notice? When you listen to television, it's always getting worse. No matter who is interviewed, it's always getting worse. What did your parents tell you? It's always getting worse. When you gather around and talk about the planet or the pieces and parts of your own society, you know, don't you? It's always getting worse. That means it's a downhill road, doesn't it? It means there's no hope, doesn't it? This is a habit. Somehow by saying those things, it enhances you in the old energy. Because others feel the same way. You have something to commiserate with, to. You can unite in that which is worsedom. Everything is always getting worse. If you pipe up and say, well, yeah, but I think this is getting better, your friends will look at you and say, you're wrong. What's wrong with you? You may even create a distance between you and your friends because things are not always getting worse for you. And that is the point. The old energy and the new energy, sometimes they clash. They don't come together. Sometimes it will take this for those to leave the conversation or wish you weren't there because you're not striking the doom that they want. Don't you know better? After all, the world's always getting worse. It isn't, dear ones. In fact, what is going on this planet right now is a readjustment of light and dark, a reevaluation, a reframing of human consciousness that will take some time. In the process, we've discussed what the planet is going through, what the weather is going through, the preparation for a new consciousness, what it's going through. We've talked about the wild cards that have come in to stir things up for you. We've talked about many kinds of shocks to some who will say, see, it's worse and worse, and at the same time you realize that these things, what they think are worse, is simply because they're changed from what they had. Changed from what they had. Sometimes change itself means that things are getting worse. What do you do? What can you do? Dear ones, all you can do is to drop the box that you were taught in. To understand and cognize the shift that is going on that was prophesied by the ancients is the most positive thing that has ever happened to humanity. You're part of it. You sit in it. You're the old soul who's going to experience it. So start to give it lip service. And if not to those friends who want to say it's getting worse, perhaps to your children, perhaps to others who will listen. If not, then perhaps to a tree. Celebrating the fact that this planet is going through readjustment that may be difficult or seem like it's getting worse, but it is not. Celebrating light that hasn't happened here before. When light occurs and it hasn't happened, people are afraid. Because it's different, because it has energy, because it makes things look different, and that creates fear. It's easy to say things are getting worse. Dear ones, they're not. Not anymore. In the old paradigm, maybe so, but not now. In fact, the turnaround is just beginning. That's the solution. But I still ask you, watch for the habit. And if you're with friends you love and they have the habit, just don't chime in. You can say to yourself, every time they say it's getting worse, you can say, that's just what you think. In your mind, of course. When they start talking about the itemization of what makes it worse, you can say, well, that's just what you think. In your mind, of course. And in that way, you sit there and you don't participate with them. But you can still be with them. That was number 3. Number 4, perhaps, is the hardest. It's a habit, and that is you let other human beings define you and control your life every day. Every day. Not understanding that you have completely total free will, not to buy into what they say or fear the ramifications of what they say they may do. It happens at home, it happens at work, it's society-wide. It has to do with not only the infrastructure, but who's in charge and who is not, whether it's at home or at work. And what someone says then affects you. Dear old soul, it's time to drop this completely and understand that no human being, no matter what they say, as they look in your eyes, can affect you. In the past, how many of you do you think got disease because of what others told you? Or what they put you through on a regular basis? And you died young and didn't have to because you bought into it. This is one of the greatest deceptions of an old energy, that other human beings can define you and affect you. If you let them, they will. Dear ones, if somebody starts to tell you things you don't want to hear or demeans you, and if it's an inappropriate situation and you can't leave, you do not have to respond. You can tune them out. You can shine your life. I am magnificent. This is not me. What they're saying is their issue, coming right out of their mouth, targeted at me. Did you ever think of that? Everything they say to you is their issue, targeted at you, has nothing to do with you. Can you disengage to the point where somebody can yell names at you and you are not feeling a thing? And if you can, congratulations. That's free choice. By the way, you'll live longer. Humans can cause other humans to die sooner and have disease. That's just the way of it. Because in an old energy, you buy into it, you fret about it, you fear, you worry. Kryon, you don't understand. This is my boss. Then get another boss. That is what we're telling you. If it's happening at home, you're going to have to reframe your own resistance to changing it. Perhaps it's a habit that you can't break. Let me tell you something. That doesn't exist. In this new energy with the light, that doesn't exist. You can break any habit at this point in time. You have more power for this than any time. There's more light. There's more help. The wind is at your back. You can stand in front of a constant abusive person and not feel anything except being sorry they're having a bad day. Whatever they say, they're echoing who they are to you. And you don't have to buy into it. Many needed to hear this. Because that is where the crux, perhaps, of your discomfort right now is. That they will tell you you're nothing, or demean you. And for some unbelievable reason, in your magnificence, you believe it. That can change today. That is free choice. That's power, real power. The last one, number 5, is similar. Did you realize that when you center around groups of people and you start talking about other people or situations and you start complaining, it's a habit. Dear ones, I want you to reframe your conversation. If you cannot say something positive, don't say it. I want you to watch what happens. Number 1, your friends may stop being your friends. That's not an all bad thing. Find other friends who will speak more positive. But I want to tell you something, that everything you say and every situation you set up with your complaints is heard by your cellular structure. And in that, it's destructive. This is an energy, dear ones, that you are telling your body and the field and everything around you, almost like you're ordering an energy that's going to come and be delivered to you. We've said that before. But complaining perhaps is one of the chief issues that will come back on you over and over. It's a negative attitude that will sow seeds of negativity that will be in you. Did you know that? Complaining is a habit. You say, my whole society complains. Is that the reason why you should complain? It is not. It truly is not. It does not make you a better person to join in that which is complaining. I told you these truths would be personal, and today they are. It is not up to you to rewrite anyone else's program, but yours. I want you to think about that the next time you have an opportunity to complain about something that perhaps is complainable about. What can you do? You can think positive about yourself, about the situation, about that which others would complain about, and look at the other humans involved who may very well not know the habit that they are in as well. Can you see God in everything? Can you see God in other human beings? If you complain about situations, could you understand why situations might be there? Or there's no control. Can you see the upside or the light in any of these? This is not a silver lining on a cloud. Dear ones, this is a paradigm shift of thinking and speaking and consciousness. That's what it is. So what we're telling you is it's a habit to create conversations that literally will make you have a shorter life. It's a habit. If your cellular structure is at peace with itself and your consciousness is at peace with itself, this is the secret to youthing. It truly is. My partner says that many times he continues to wake up at 3 in the morning. He used to do that. And there was a laundry list of things to worry about. And now he wakes up because it's a habit. And the first thing he thinks about is, what are we going to worry about? And then he realizes, nothing. And he's asleep in 10 minutes. It's a habit, dear ones, that many of you have to this day. So if you wake up at 3 in the morning and you start your laundry list of worries, I want you to stand up. If you have to get out of bed, and you say to anyone who will listen to you or not listen to you, not this time. Say it out loud, not anymore. Because I have peace in my life over even the things that seem to be worried-filled subjects. I have peace over all of them. Is this doable? Oh, yes. The more you do this, the easier it gets, until there's a time when you will wake up at 3 in the morning and realize there is nothing there that is too big for the love of God, or the synchronicity in your life, or for the old soul, and you'll be asleep again immediately. And that's the secret, and that's the solution. Understand your magnificence and your mastery, the can-do of what is in your body, the control you have of you in any situation, and knowing you are totally and completely loved, worthy, and you belong here. That's the message for tonight. There is some rewriting to do, isn't there? There are some things that have to be shifted and changed as taught to you so long ago. If you're a young parent listening to this, I will tell you that everything that I have just given you is for your children. They'll see it in you. Depends on how you teach them. So no message like this would ever have to be given to them, ever in their lives. Because after you are gone, they will remember mom and dad as being positive about the future and about what is possible with the human being. You can shape a life forever in your positiveness. And it's not just being positive. That's the reality of the light in the planet today. This message is given in love for a changing human being, for one that is trying to drop the old paradigms and habits and will do so. I've been here before, dear ones. I've been in societies going through this before, dear ones. I know what you're going through. I know where this is going. More than doable. It creates new human beings. You will surprise yourself in what you can do that you couldn't do before. Because today is different than yesterday.